Yo, this is Bench Gamer here, back again with the vlogging. I'm back at my house, and I haven't really done anything much with the yard ever since I started weeding this place. I have been living outside in a rental place, so this is like the second time I came back here after the last video. And right now I'm standing because, well, there's a dead rat on the bench. This is actually pretty common, I suppose, because there's a bunch of feral cats all over the place. They're not really feral because the community kind of takes care of them. And we kind of just pretend like they're domesticated pet cats, even though they're not really. So I guess these rats just show up dead at the doorsteps of some houses once in a while. And now you can see, if you look closely, there's like ants taking apart the rat. And there's like a little spot there that I can sit at, but I don't really want to sit next to a dead rat, so I guess I'll just keep, like, I don't know, squatting here, filming it while I talk about gacha games. So right, before I start, I think like just to cover a bit of what I've been doing since the last 10 days. I think that was the last time I made a video. I went to my grandma's funeral. I went to the cemetery service. So we delivered after the funeral service, right? She got cremated, so she's in an urn now. And then like 2 days after that, we delivered her to the cemetery. So that was that was what I've been doing, and I also had to take care of some inheritance business. So I went to the administrative office of Taipei, blah 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 blah, some specific place that you probably don't need to know about. And yeah, I did some paperwork. Really, I kind of just waited at the office while other people did the paperwork for me, but that's basically what I've been doing. And yeah, that's been my life so far for the last week or so. I guess I should talk about a bit about gacha games. That is what this channel is about, right? So, the Unknowable Domain is the new event, sort of simulated universe expansion that we've run in Honkai Star Rail. And there has been some talk, I think it's mostly on Reddit. I don't think they really talk about endgame content on Twitter anymore. Twitter is basically just, you know, NSFW. If it's not NSFW, it's like edging at NSFW, and they don't really talk about anything else unless it's drama. So the new event domain, not really called domain, it's just the new simulated universe expansion for Honkai Star Rail. It has had some relatively mixed reception. Some people are calling it lazy, some people are calling it not fun, and that's for one main specific reason, which is that your characters don't really do anything. They're just kind of like tools for you to trigger the effects of the artifacts or whatever the things. The in-game mechanics of the new expansion are the majority of your power level in this new endgame mode. And a lot of people don't enjoy this because, frankly, gacha games are just character collectors, right? If you collect characters and you only see them used in a very specific way, in a way that is not considered fun, in a way that kind of negates the purpose of collecting the characters in the first place, then it's like, why are you collecting these characters? That's really the heart of the problem of the Unknowable Domain. There are a lot of like other specific things. I should probably just stop filming the rat getting eaten alive right now, but I don't know, it's pretty interesting. Not very often you get to see like, hey, it's missing like its left leg, I think. One of its left legs. Probably because, again, a cat killed it, probably. It looks pretty healthy, too. It's like pretty plump. So I don't think it just like killed over and died by itself. It's probably just a cat. Anyways, the Unknowable Domain is what I was suspecting was going to happen to Honkai Star Rail eventually, and probably most gacha games in general will end up in the state that Honkai Star Rail is in right now. It's just that Honkai Star Rail reached this state a lot faster because their character release schedule is faster, and the way that their endgame has developed is also much faster than the other gacha games, specifically Hoyoverse games. I don't know about other gacha games. Arknights, when I joined Arknights, it was already so developed in terms of its endgame that there wasn't really a lot for me to like compare it to, because I didn't really play it when it first came out. I played it, I think it's like a year and a half after its release. So for Hoyoverse games, Honkai Star is definitely the one that has advanced its endgame the most, and that poses a really specific question, which is that how do you make endgame content hard when people have already invested so many resources into making their characters good, right? They spend so much time grinding their artifacts, getting their relics up to speed, having like insanely kitted out characters with multiple eidolons. And the real like actual answer to that is not some kind of genius answer. They haven't figured out how to make endgame content fun or more challenging for what is essentially an idle turn-based gacha game. What they have done is that they have just taken the power away from the characters, so that no matter how much money you spend, it doesn't really matter, because the endgame content requires you to play the mechanics of the endgame content rather than, you know, spending money and collecting characters and spending your gacha currency. So that's why a lot of people are not really finding the new event Simulator Universe fun anymore. I personally, I've finished the vast majority of it. I just have a few more like Monday night, whatever. I think that's what the after you finish the main story, whatever it's called, right, the main lore stuff, there's like another mode where you just have like fixed artifacts that you have fixed kit loadouts that you start with. That's what I'm on now. I have like 4 more of those to do. I've finished the vast majority of it, and to be frank, I just don't enjoy it as much as the previous Simulator Universe modes. But I also don't fault Hoyoverse for not making it as fun as the previous ones, because I can see where they're coming from. I can see why they put the vast majority of your power within the mechanics of the game mode itself rather than what characters you have, because they can't really do anything else, right? For, again, a turn-based gacha game, this is where it was always going to end up. And it just shows, like, there's only so much stuff you can do with turn-based gacha games, and I've already said this multiple times in my previous videos about how the endgame content really doesn't make a gacha game. It is an intrinsic part, and a part that cannot be done without in gacha games. Every gacha game needs to have some sort of endgame content, but the endgame content really doesn't make gacha games by itself. You can't just have endgame content. You just can't have an endless grind. You have to have some like side stuff, like, I don't know, a parlor car, which is what they're adding into Honkai Star Rail now. You need to have side events. You need to have like side games. You need to have arcade games. These are the things that like flesh out the actual gacha game part of the gacha game, besides just collecting characters and using them in combat. Which a lot of people kind of mistake. A lot of people who started Genshin Impact kind of expect the endgame to be the most exciting part of the gacha game. But now that I have played more gacha games, and it's really something that I've always expected, even while people were complaining about how Genshin Impact doesn't have an endgame, which is that once you actually get that endgame content, it suddenly becomes not really that worthy of talking about anymore. Because they have to find new ways to inconvenience you, so that you have to find new ways of like figuring out how to do the endgame content, whether that's by inflating the HP or the damage of the enemies, increasing their attack pattern frequency to the point where, you know, it becomes too much of a hassle for you to not have like a shield character. They've all done this before. They've done this in Wuthering Waves with the Scar boss fight in Tower Diversity, where they don't have a stun. Like, they don't have a stun mechanic. You can't parry Scar. They don't have a parry circle. And they just keep attacking and attacking and attacking. And they sort of did this to a lesser extent in Zenless Zone Zero as well, although I find that much less inconvenient. And that's how they sold Caesar King. They added a new like survival mode so that Caesar King could shine. And I find that all to be like somewhat fine. But you have to admit at the end of the day is that they just create new problems for you to fix. And at least for the new Simulator Universe expansion module, it's something that you can like realistically do without having all of the idolins, without having the best artifacts and kit artifacts or relics or whatever they call them, right? It requires much less RNG outside of the Simulator Universe expansion itself. So that is something that I find to be okay, at least, at the very least. Even if it's not fun, it's at least something that you can mine Primo Gems for, right? So that's how I feel about the Simulator Universe right now, which is that I don't really look forward to new expansion modules anymore. But I also think that the Honkai Star Rail team knows what I'm talking about. They know that they are getting diminishing returns for releasing newer expansions, which is why they're adding all this new stuff in the next patch. They probably already announced this. I think I have in my mind, it's like part of the leaks stuff that I look at. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure that they have already also officially announced that we're getting like some kind of parlor car. We're getting more like stuff that you can put into the Astro Express to like kit yourself out, to make yourself basically feel better about your progress instead of just collecting characters. That's really what the other part of the gacha game cycle is about, other than collecting characters. You need to have some sort of like proof that you're progressing in the game, but some sort of visual indicator and visual feedback for how you're progressing in the game, whether that's like new UI for your phone or like a new pet or just stuff you can put every time you go to a new region. You have to get some sort of doohickey that you can put your extra Astro Express. These are all just like very obvious things. Even just like free skins is something that can prove that you are progressing in the game and that you're collecting other stuff. Anything other than just characters essentially is what I'm looking forward to at this point. Because even though I'm talking about Simulator Universe expansion, the Simulator Universe expansion and how it is like being dealt with right now is a direct result of how they're also handling characters. So it's kind of like an Ouroboros, right? You release more characters, you increase the power level of the characters, you increase the HP and the power level of the enemies, and so that essentially now that the new simulated universe expansions either have to power creep to the extent that the older players can't really keep up with their older characters, or you make the power level of the simulated universe expansions basically self-contained, and which is what they have done right now. And I find that to be an okay like solution, even if it's not perfect. They are adding other stuff to Honkai Star Rail now that I find interesting, like an Astral Express expansion. So I'm pretty happy with Honkai Star right now. It's not like the new expansion for SimU is not anything to write home about. I also find that they are adding in less art. I don't really like how every time you unlock a new lore expansion, you get a new bit of lore. They always show the same picture of Herda, like the small Herda and the big Herda in the distance. And then there's like one other picture that you can unlock in the Mundunite expansion at the very end. And it just feels really lazy how they only have two or three pictures. And then you have a whole bunch of repeated different color textures of the artifacts that you collect that power up your, basically the things that you use to deal damage with. So that's basically my rant about Honkai Star right now. It's not in a bad or like good place, but I think it's in a better place than it was previously because they have announced that they are adding more things that I care about. So this is Bench Gamer signing out, and yeah, I'll probably make another video log of this whenever I feel comfortable, when there's not really like that much for me to do. Actually, I should probably go inside and clean up the house, but I don't feel like it. So this is Bench Gamer signing out, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.